How's it going? You doing good? I hope you're doing good. It is a Saturday for me, and now that I am in the world of corporate America, I quite like the Saturday. But earlier today, I got into a bit of a mood, into a bit of a funk. See, I realized something. Today, I realized that I'm not perfect. And I think it's just something that I'm going to have to come to terms with, something that I'm going to have to learn to live with. But no, I have been thinking though about this idea of perfection and primarily the pursuit of perfection recently. And it keeps bringing me back to this quote, this idea really, from pop icon and superstar Hannah Montana. You may know her, but she said, "Nobody's perfect. I gotta work it." And while it is true that everybody makes mistakes, everybody has those days, there is still this pursuit of something perfect. Something unattainable in a lot of aspects of our lives and the goals that we set for ourselves, both personally and professionally. And with that, there comes a series really of both internal and external pressures that then hold that very process of the pursuit up to an elevated level. Now, even these videos have a certain level of course I want to upload something. I want to make something that I feel good about. There's always things that I can personally work on. There's always structure, there's timing, there's a whole slew of everything under the sort of video sun. But I think it also comes down to a certain element of, at the end of the day, I'm just talking. I'm having a conversation with you about something that I thought about, something that I have on my mind, and there is nothing in the real world or in real life about having a conversation with someone that involves jump cuts or is highly edited. There are, of course, videos where that makes a lot of sense. Movies and documentaries are an example of, they're probably not going to just feature a guy sitting in a chair talking, to the camera for an hour and a half. It is their job, to get across their message, and it wouldn't get their message across in the best way. And after all, whenever we are communicating, we all communicate in one way or another, but it is our goal to ensure that our message is being received in the best way, in the most effective way. Now, I think that context matters too. It helps define the world in which our goals live in. And this sort of lends to helping define what our version of perfection is. Now, these videos, for example, like the one that you're watching right now or have playing while you're in the other room doing laundry, all of this started for one simple reason. It was just because I wanted to be more comfortable speaking. I wanted to get more comfortable being on camera. Do you know those sort of self-record interviews that you have to do sometimes? Have you ever applied for a job and they send you a link? You open it up and you get yourself all ready, but they pose a couple questions to you, and they're usually all behavioral questions like, tell me about a time where you had a conflict with someone and how could you resolve it, or how did you resolve it? You then get a couple of chances and you record sort of a 3-minute response of yourself just talking to the camera, telling your story. Now, it's only 3 minutes. It's really not that long. It's really not that bad, but I didn't like them. Not one bit. I really despised them, really. And the funny thing is that there was probably only 2 or 3 people on the other side watching it. But for whatever reason, when it wasn't a person that I was talking to directly, say face to face or eye to eye, I don't know, something came over me. I was very uncomfortable with the whole situation. Now, you want to know what's crazy? One of my last videos, It was over 20 minutes long, and it got around 500 views, probably a little bit over by now. Now, in the current day and age of views and clicks and conversions and a billion other metrics, in comparison, it's kind of shit. But you know, there are people out there who are able to turn hundreds of thousands of people onto a single thing in a couple minutes. Or someone sitting down talking to a camera like I am now can garner millions and millions of views. And so in that regard, it really isn't that much, but it matters and it means a lot. But why? Why does 500 mean so much? Well, 500 is more people than my high school graduating class. 500 can fill an auditorium. It can fill a small music venue. The last time I spoke to people anywhere close to that number was probably back in college during a presentation. Now this was only 5, maybe 10 minutes. And it was probably only 30, maybe max 40 people. Nothing in comparison. Or maybe the last time I left a job, it was a great job, and I loved it. And at the end, I got up and I said a couple words to the department, thanking them, for, just for being good people. And again, they were also bribed though with cupcakes and sweet treats, so I'm not sure that counts too much, but either way, 30, 40 people max, 5, 10 minutes max, and now 20 minutes in front of a camera, something that I am much more uncomfortable with than with people. And for that extended period of time, that is huge. That is absolutely massive, and it means so very, very much. And although I have sort of this idea, of what I would be in a perfect world, like a great speaker or someone very comfortable on camera, we don't live in a perfect world. Although you could say that it is the world that we have, so by default it is the perfect one. Now, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole today, but I think that optimistic sort of state of mind can take you a lot further than you may think. But ultimately, you do the best with what is presented to you at the moment. And although there is never the perfect time to do something or the perfect thing to do, it's not necessarily about the end goal. It's kind of like that cliched adage, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. But it makes sense when it comes down to the pursuit of perfection, because it really is strictly about the pursuit. Now, this is where we can get into a bit of a fine line of bordering, that healthy reach for growth and that sort of crippling expectation that keeps your amygdala working overtime. If you put too much emphasis on the idea of the perfect outcome or of the perfect product along the way to achieving that very goal, then you may actually be hindering any sort of progress at all. Like Voltaire said, perfect is the enemy of good, or put plainly by researcher and Professor Brene Brown, and I did write this down, but Brown said, perfectionism is the voice of the oppressor, the enemy of creative flow. It is the obsessive belief that if we run carefully enough, maybe we can avoid death altogether. So what's the point of even chasing perfection then, if the journey along the way is taut with debilitating effects and could very well be evil? And plus the end goal doesn't even exist because we've already established that perfection isn't real. Then why do it? Because at the end of the day, it's not really about being perfect, is it? We've already established that nothing is, and Stephen Hawking even said one of the basic rules of the universe is that nothing is perfect. Perfection simply doesn't exist. Without imperfection, neither you or I would exist. The perfection that we seek and the things that we do and the people that we are isn't defined as any textbook version or anyone else's idea of what it should be. It's what I think ultimately comes down to the indomitable spirit of us as a race, as a human race, to push towards the impossible, knowing very well that it is something that will never be achieved. It's knowing that and then doing it anyway. You're not perfect. Sorry. But don't worry, because I'm not perfect too. Austin Butler, although probably pretty close, is also not perfect. Nobody is. Now, that imperfection, though, that is where life is. That is where progress is made. It is the ridiculous space where art, literature, science, discussion, and all of the above are created, researched, and enjoyed. And it's in all that madness that you find that being absolutely ridiculous is better than how boring perfection would be. That was paraphrased from Marilyn Monroe, by the way. But that's all I have for you today. That's all I want to talk about, just perfection. I hope you have a great rest of whatever day it is and whatever time of day it is for you. I will see you in the next one.